Hi everybody, this is Nilanjana ma'am, and in this English class today, I'd like to tell you a story. Yes, a story. So this story is called Lawley Road, written by the great R.K.Narayan, who was a renowned writer, an Indian writer who wrote in English language. And we got such wonderful gems from his pen like Malgudi Days, and then the novel, the very famous novel called The Guide, for which he won the Sahitya Academy Award. And the novel was also made into a wonderful film starring the great Devanand and Wahida Rahman. So if you have time, please go and watch the film, The Guide. So for today, let's get started with the story. Now this story, Lawley Road, it is set in a town called Malgudi, and the year is 1947. Yes, the year of our Indian independence, the independence which we got from our colonial masters, the Britishers. Yes, and the day on which the story starts is 15th August. Is the very day on which we won our independence. And our narrator, the one who narrates the story, is a reporter by profession, and he works for the local for the local newspaper, and he earns rupees 2 for for every inch of that newspaper report that gets published and that is reported by him. All right. So the story starts on 15th August, and before that day, nobody in Malgudi even knew that a municipality existed in that town. Yeah, and on that day, on that special day, the municipality decided to do something for the people, to do something for the town. And the municipality wanted to make its presence felt in the town. And so what they did is they tried to do some good work. They swept the roads, they cleaned the drains, and then they decorated the town with with flags and flowers everywhere. Yeah, and the chairman of the municipality, he called for an urgent meeting, and so many reporters and all and people were present there. So there he announced that I'd like to do something more for our town. I think I haven't done enough for the town. So this reporter, our narrator, he asks the chairman, "So what do you mean by enough?" Yes, I mean, what do you want to do more for our town? And then the chairman announced that I'd like to do something great for our town. Come what may, meaning let whatever come. I want to do something something that no one has ever done previously. All right. So he called for an urgent meeting of the councillors, yes, in his office, and then they met and they talked. So, and then they decided to nationalize every road and to rename every park, yes, and to, to put the names of our Indian national leaders, our heroes, as the new names for roads, streets, and parks. Now there's this a particular road called the Lawley Extension Road. It was called Lawley Road, Lawley, Lawley Road, because it had at the corner of the street, there was this huge, tall statue, and this statue was of Sir Frederick Lawley, who was a famous British officer. Well, not famous, I shouldn't say famous. He was, because he was least, known by the people of the town. Like historians knew him and writers and all. He was known to writers and historians and people like that, but not to the local people of that town. So that area was renamed by the municipality as Gandhinagar, right? So as it was named Gandhinagar, so people did not want this statue anymore. They wanted some other statue. So they did not want the statue of a British person here in their town anymore. So what happened the next day, the municipality people, they went to examine that place, and they are standing around a statue. So what they discovered is that the statue is like 20 feet tall, and it is very, very heavy. And the pedestal of the statue is made up of molten lead. Yeah, and lead, we all know that it's a very, it's one of the heaviest metals. I'm sorry, I mean heaviest elements. Right. So, so what they think is they understood that only a dynamite blast will be able to, bring the statue down. So what they do is they decide to announce, they decide to invite tenders from the local contractors to, to remove the statue. Now, as the chairman knew the narrator, this reporter man who narrates our story, so as the chairman knew the narrator personally, so he called him and then he gave him a good offer, a proposal. So he proposed to the narrator that why don't you arrange for, for removing the statue from here, and I can give you the statue for free. If you do not charge the municipality any money, any money for the expenses that are caused to remove the statue, then I can give you the statue for free. So the narrator, he thought, well, this is quite clever. So this is good. And he's ready to, say yes to the proposal. And he said, okay, sir, I'm going to do it. So please give the tender to me. So all the arrangements are made by the chairman and the tender is given to him. All right. So he, the narrator, he goes to his father-in-law and is able to convince him, and he takes some loan from his father-in-law. Yeah, because he has to arrange for, for several coolies to bring, to pull down the statue and all. So they tried for 7 days, 7 to 10 days and all, but and he hired so many coolies to bring it down, and ropes and everything was there, but that statue was so heavy it could not be brought down. So what to do? Now he went to the district magistrate of the town and asked for permission to use a dynamite blast, because these blasts, they can be very harmful to people. So he somehow managed to get the permission, and he uses the dynamite blast. So no harm done, nobody is harmed and all, and the blast is successful, and the statue is finally brought down. Now the statue was to be transported to his to some other place. So a special carriage was arranged, and so many bullocks were also hired to pull the carriage. So everything is done, and the statue is finally removed and taken to the narrator's house. And the statue is so large that it stretched out of the doorway, and it was half of the body of the statue was out in the open. Yeah, it was so large and so huge. And then what happened? So the narrator was feeling very happy, and he thought that I should sell off this this heavy metal, either I can sell off the metal, or what I'll do is I'll go to the British Museum or the Westminster Abbey Museum and all, and I will sell off this, the statue to them. So he thought, he was thinking of all these brilliant plans and all. So he was quite in a happy state of mind, and what he does is he also writes a good report, because he was a reporter, and he has and he gets the report published in the local paper. So everybody is like hero worshipping this narrator, and he becomes famous, like a star, a one night star he becomes for being able to remove the the statue from that place. So everyone was happy in the town, the chairman, the municipality, the local people, everybody thanked him for removing that British demon-like statue from that place. And then finally, after a week, what happened is, one fine morning, the chairman comes to his place, and the chairman comes and he tells him that see, I have some serious bad news. So yeah, what bad news? And then he gives him a bunch of telegrams and letters and asks him, just go through this. So now one blunder you have done, he tells the narrator. What blunder? Now you got the report published in your paper, so everybody came to know about it, and the whole country knows about it. Or the whole, the news has spread, far and wide to many places, and see what you have done. So what had happened? What had happened actually? What had happened is, letters and telegrams were flooded. They came flooding. They came and it flooded the municipality, office. And what happened is, historians and writers and journalists and different officers from different places of the country, they wrote to the municipality that why have you brought this statue down? He is Sir Frederick Lawley. He was such a great man, and it was he who had, who had established, who had built this town Malgudi. It was Sir Lawley who had built the town Malgudi, and he had done so many things for the people. Like he had, he had built the town, and then he had also he had also arranged for a brilliant irrigation system, and this canal, he had built this canals, from the river, and he has brought down the river, river Sarayu water, to the fields and to the agricultural fields and all for good for good crop cultivation. So it is only because of him that this irrigation system was possible. And he had also he had also set up the first cooperative society in the country, and he was always working for the downtrodden, for the poor people. So how could you bring his statue down? So this negative response and this huge reaction took place, and it came from the writers, from the historians, from the officers, and from the government, from the top government officials also. And they were they were full of appreciation for this Britisher. And then finally it was learned that this person, Sir Lawley, he breathed his last. He died while he was saving he was saving some of the farmers from that terrible Sarayu flood. So Sarayu is a river, and the river got flooded. The great Sarayu River got flooded at one point of time, and Sir Lawley was, he lost his life while he was saving, innocent farmers from this flood. So this is how he had devoted his entire life for the, for the people. He had worked so hard for the people of the place. And then the government has ordered us to reinstall the statue, and the government had clearly mentioned that Sir Lawley had devoted his entire life for the people of Malgudi, and he had worked really hard, and all the milestones that he had achieved. And also there was this special quotation that once, in one of his speeches somewhere, Sir Frederick Lawley had declared that Britain must quit India someday for her own good. So he, being a Britisher, he spoke against the British. He spoke against our colonial, masters, and he had said that the British must quit India for their own good. So such a brilliant thing, and it was understood that he was just not, any shrewd or any, any crafty Britisher. Rather, he was a peace-loving, he was a wise person. He was such a helpful and such a benevolent person who had devoted his life for the people. And then the government had passed this order that you have to reinstall the statue, as soon as possible. So that's the end of the story. So so much of chaos over one statue, so much of the dynamite blast, and so much of money wasted and everything. And finally you have to reinstall the statue back. So yes, what did you learn from the story? Please leave your comments in the comment section and tell me what kind of stories do you wish to listen in my further classes. And please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and that would keep me inspired and to work for some interesting content, right? Like